Well, 2026, here we are, and hopefully it's a good year. And with the new year, as I said in my LEGO Star Wars video, I want to really focus on primarily YouTube content and do my VTubing stuff on the side for streaming. Keeping up with the trend of looking at games from my youth, this is one I have not touched in quite some time, but I was looking forward to coming back to this. Sonic Rush for the Nintendo DS released back in 2005, which, if you recall from my last video, was the same year I would get a Game Boy Advance in the Star Wars games I mentioned. For a good while, I would normally be trailing behind on what was current. A perfect example was when I would get Pokemon Diamond for the first time, just weeks, if not months before the release of Generation 5 with Black and White Part 1. Not like there was much I could do about that. This was during a time in my life where I didn't have access to the internet, so new game releases were more of a surprise than anything else. A series of Pokemon reviews is not likely to anytime soon, not because they're RPGs, but I haven't really been in a Pokemon mood after the release of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, but I'm getting off the rails. So I can't exactly recall what year I would get a Nintendo DS for the first time, but I do remember how I came across Sonic Rush, which would be my introduction to this blue bastard. During my Bakugan high, I would spend the night over at a friend's house where we played Bakugan throughout the night, and he would show me his DS collection of games, and there it was, a copy of Sonic Rush. Curious about it, I asked him if I could try it, which he agreed to, and I would proceed to play for a good couple hours. We then made a trade where I would give him my copy of New Super Mario Bros. For it, and the rest is kind of history. For years, Sonic Rush would be one of my favorite games ever, and even if I don't play it often anymore, it's a game I have so many fond memories of that I can't help but think of it highly. In a funny way, I sort of have Bakugan to thank for introducing me to Sonic, but on top of all that, he was blue, and that's my favorite color, so of course I was immediately drawn to him. It's been close to a decade since I last played this game, so let's take it from the top and do some of the fancy research I like to do sometimes. Sonic Rush is a 2.5D adventure game developed by Sonic Team and Dimps, the latter also being responsible for the Sonic Advance trilogy for the Game Boy Advance, a series of games that I have some memory of but barely played for myself, so I don't have much to comment, but from what I've heard, it sounds like they were all very enjoyable games, so we could put that on the backlog for another time, I suppose. This would also be the game that introduced a new character to Sonic's universe, Blaze the Cat, a character that I personally enjoyed a lot in this game, only for Sonic Team to completely fuck that up in Sonic 06 just a year after this game released. Thanks guys. The soundtrack would be primarily composed by, and I'm so sorry if I butchered these names coming up, Hideki Naganuma, Teruhiko Nakagawa, along with Masayoshi Ishii and Hiroyuki Hamada. These four would collaborate to create a very funky and incredible soundtrack that to this day still sounds pretty good despite the DS's sound limitations. I never played Jet Set Radio and don't see that changing anytime soon as of this video, but I hear people draw parallels between these two games and its soundtracks, which I do notice, it's really good stuff. If you have the time, I highly recommend looking up the original Groove Rush, which is just the game's soundtrack but in much higher quality, so if you want to appreciate the music even more, go give that a listen. I was listening to it here and there while working on this video, and it's quite enjoyable. Much like the other videos I've done so far, the other 3 that I've done, this was a video I felt pretty comfy working on, but before I started recording the gameplay for this video, there was a few things I remember from my previous adventures. Bottomless pits, too many bottomless pits, the fucking half pipe, where the fuck did the sensible design go, guys? And oh my god, my head hurts. Well, let's talk about the story first before anything else, shall we? And I'll be doing my best to combine both sides of the story into a single narrative, so bear with me on this, and I'll try to keep it brief because this story is not terribly deep. Then again, it's a handheld Sonic adventure, so I shouldn't be surprised. So Blaze finds herself awake in Sonic's world as a result of the Soul Emeralds being yoinked by Dr. Eggman. The Soul Emeralds are basically just the Chaos Emeralds from another dimension. However, having both sets of emeralds exist in the same location is causing things to go to shit as a result of Eggman hunting the Soul Emeralds and Eggman Nega, the Eggman from Blaze's dimension, hunting the Chaos Emeralds. Both Eggmans want both sets of emeralds themselves to take over both dimensions, though I'm not sure how well that will go if space and time is slowly becoming more and more fucked beyond repair unless these two goofballs can find a workaround. Oh well. This causes Sonic and Blaze to team up eventually, as Blaze is initially rather cold-hearted and distant and prefers to work alone, thinking it's her responsibility and only her responsibility to get the Soul Emeralds and deal with the Eggmans. But after several hours of running around, Blaze bumping into Sonic's friends telling her she needs to be more open and actually work together to make life easier, especially from Kreen the Rabbit, because if you exist in a Sonic game, it's in your contract that you have to be friends with Kreen the Rabbit. She eventually starts to warm up to everyone. Figuratively, I should stress, she is a wielder of the fire element after all. Anyway, Sonic and Blaze team up by the end of it, use their super forms to crack 2 eggs, Blaze goes back to her dimension, and then Sonic 06 comes out. The presentation isn't bad, but it can be quite boring at times. There is a lot of dialogue and not much in the way of cutscenes, and most cutscenes that do play are animated bits that get paused for dialogue in between, instead of just having subtitles to read. And I say most because post-boss fight cutscenes do this, so why can't they all be like this? The character portraits at least do well in expressing the character's emotions when talking, so it's fine for the most part. And graphically, I think for a 2005 DS title, the 3D models aren't half bad at all. I think it helps that Sonic Rush is a primarily 2D game, as level environments are sprite based with 3D models for the characters. So this design choice, I guess, allowed the budget on the 3D models to be more open, which I do like. For me, at least, it makes the character stand out more too during gameplay, even if you're constantly boosting all the damn time. Now, for the gameplay, and for the record, both Sonic and Blaze control largely the same. They can jump, they can boost, they can perform tricks in the air. The only difference is the paths they take throughout the story. Both characters go through the same stages, but their means of gain around the world is a little different, which can lead to a strange difficulty curve if you play as Blaze in stages that Sonic wouldn't get to until a bit later. To my knowledge, this is the very first Sonic game to incorporate a boost function. As if Sonic wasn't already going fast enough for you, how about even more speed? The tension gauge on the left side of the screen, or screens, as the UI is always on whatever screen the character you're in control of is on, as this game uses both screens for gameplay outside of boss fights. But anyway, the more you have in the tension gauge, the longer you can hold down the boost for. While boosting, you're completely immune to just about anything unless it's spikes or bottomless pits. And you know what? Let's get this out of the way now. There's one thing I have to criticize Sonic Rush for when it comes to design. It's the sheer amount of bottomless pits that are fucking everywhere. My goodness, I guess they blew too much of the budget on the 3 models and forgot they had to make levels, so to fill the empty voids, they just gave us a bunch of methods to get across these. Doesn't stop some of these stages from being fucking obnoxious with these damn gaps. Hits it pretty early on too. Water Palace, which I should remind everyone, is Sonic's second zone, has a fair amount of bottomless pits all over the damn place. And it does not get any better as you progress. In fact, I feel like it gets worse, a lot worse. And that's a shame too, because overall, I think Sonic Rush is a perfectly solid game, but with the absurd amount of deaths I've had because of the overabundance of bottomless pits, it knocks it down a few pegs for me. Altitude Limit is, in my opinion, the worst of it. I get why it's a zone that's in the sky, but for fuck's sake, it's so easy to die in this zone because of them. To lighten the mood a bit, I did enjoy most of the zones. Leaf Storm, Huge Cruise, Night Carnival, despite how much I hated the boss of that zone, were quite enjoyable for me. Night Carnival did start to drive me insane a little bit though, with this one bit that I died to one too many times at, because that enemy placement is just plain fucking cruel. What the shit. And on the overall thoughts of design, some of these bosses can either take you a few moments or forever. The boss in Huge Cruise, which is just a reskin of the Leaf Storm boss, can take forever because every time I land a hit, it would back off to fire missiles from a distance, just knocking the pace down to a fucking crawl. Oh, and don't get a game over when going through the acts, because if you game over in Act 2, you have to do Act 1 all over again. Can someone explain to me why though? Because if I game over on a boss, I get to restart at the boss, not the start of the zone. So what's with the inconsistency there? The Sonic vs. Blaze battle was laughable. I managed to clear this fight during Sonic's story in under a minute, which was a stark contrast to the 3+ minutes I spent on the bosses prior. The final boss of the individual stories can either be the easiest fight of your life, or make you switch to easy mode just to get it over with. But I think this was an emulator issue, because during my time playing this game for this review, I experienced a lot of slowdown when a lot of things were happening on screen, and there was a lot going on during this boss in particular, that the slowdown became more detrimental than helpful. So I switched the game to easy mode, which, as far as I'm concerned, only changes the maximum amount of hit points on a boss. Am I getting that right? I didn't notice any other changes. And how about those special stages? This is something that only Sonic has to deal with, as Blaze gets the Soul Emeralds after defeating the zone's boss, so a straightforward path and you'll finish her story in no time at all with all the emeralds. But Sonic has to do with exploration to find these spinny things and boost on them long enough to enter a special stage, where you use the touchscreen to move Sonic around and collect enough rings to obtain the Chaos Emeralds in it. I actually didn't mind these personally. Like, yeah, the half-pipe design, which is something that Sonic games love to use to an almost unhealthy degree, but I also found these rather easy. The only one that gave me some trouble was the final emerald, and even then, it only took me like 3 or 4 attempts, I think. Not very long is my point, and the rest I completed in a single attempt anyway. But once you collect all the Chaos Emeralds and the Soul Emeralds and wrap up both characters' story, you unlock the final story segment that just houses the true final boss of the game. Let's roll it back a moment, shall we? So, back when I was all about this game during my childhood, I actually never knew about this final story segment until I finally discovered the special stages. So, during one of the main nights where I snuck my DS to bed late at night, you know you did it at least once, you're lying if you say you didn't. But I would go hard at trying to finish all the special stages, and then I did it. I got all the Chaos Emeralds, and when I went back to the main menu, saw the final story segment unlocked, I felt good about myself. Real sense of accomplishment back then. Plus, the theme that plays during this fight was so goddamn catchy to my younger self at the time that I was also excited to see I unlocked the sound test, which allowed me to play any of the available tracks in the game, and this was so cool to me. If there's one thing I can never dislike about this game, it's the music, which should not be a surprise to longtime Sonic fans when I say that. I'm bobbing my head to the music of this game all the damn time, no matter how much of a struggle some of the level design and bosses can be for me. If I die, at least I get to listen to that banger again. Once again, if you want a pretty good way to listen to it, I recommend checking out the original Groove Rush album that I mentioned at the start of the video. Upon completing one character story, you'll unlock this time attack mode that is exactly what it sounds like. I didn't really spend much time on this. Hell, the reason I'm even talking about this is because I legit forgot this was even in the game until I saw it available on the menu. Speaking of additional modes, there is a battle mode which I have nothing to say about because I never experienced it. Much like why I didn't talk about the Battle Arena and Backlog, although I believe you can actually do battle mode in Sonic Rush using the DS download play. I'd try it out for myself, but unfortunately I don't own a physical copy of the game anymore. I would like to add the game back to my collection at some point, but not now. My investments in rebuilding my old game collection is not exactly a priority for me at the moment. Man, being an adult really sucks now, doesn't it? Overall, Sonic Rush, despite the issues I have with the level design and some boss fights, I found this to be a pleasant revisit. I won't lie when I say I was a bit worried coming back to this, as I said it's been close to a decade or so since I last played this, and that's a lot of time away from a game, but I'm glad to say that it didn't really have a massive impact on how I felt about it back then. And it's thanks to this game that I would find myself a fan of Sonic. Nowadays I consider myself more of a casual fan. I don't always keep up with everything the Blue Bastard does, but I found enjoyment in Sonic Frontiers and Sonic Racing Cross Worlds I hear is a good time. I still need to pick up that game in particular, but I'm waiting to see if it goes on sale. Racing games are never high on the priority list for me when it comes to games, or anything that really involves driving a vehicle, and I can already hear some of my friends typing comments and asking me when I'm finally gonna play Euro Truck Simulator with them. But most importantly, Sonic Rush would lead to me watching all sorts of fan animations made on YouTube like Nazo Unleashed, which I still watch every once in a while for that nostalgic feeling. And it's how I came across Some Call Me Johnny during his 3D Sonic Marathon review videos. To this day, he still remains one of my favorite content creators, and he is the main inspiration for wanting to start doing game reviews myself. Not to mention, it's also how I found out about Final Fantasy XIV, and for anyone who knows me, I love Final Fantasy XIV a lot. And it's all thanks to Sonic Rush that I found these things in my life. You know, the last couple of reviews have really made me feel something special. I realized while working on this video that I'm not just looking at the game itself, but also the good things that came from it. And my friends know that I've recently become a bit of a sucker for older games like old school RuneScape and the currently on hold but ongoing Final Fantasy Marathon over on my live streams, on top of just taking a look at a lot of games from when I was younger and seeing what I think of them now. Of course, I do want to look at more recent releases and such, but the nostalgia train keeps going, and next time we're looking at another Sonic game for the DS, and much like Rush, I haven't played this one in quite a while. I want to say 2018 would be the last time I'd play it to its completion. Well, I better get to work on that then. Next time we meet everybody, it'll be with Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood. Well, anyway. Take care, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day, night, evening, whatever time you're watching this video. See you next time. Take care. I just realized I said like take care like twice in that outro. I really gotta word these outros better. Or just, you know, find a more consistent one I can do every single time. What are you guys still watching this video for? Go find something else to watch. Have fun. Take care. That's 3 times now. Fuck.